Hey guys, Logan with Enduro Engineering, here to show you how to install the chainsaw mount on the mountain bikes. Alright, so in your chainsaw mount, this was how it'll be boxed up. So the first step is going to be assembling it so that you can put it on the bike. So you're going to take the scabbard here, slide it through, and then you've got the top block, which is slotted for the teeth of the chainsaw. Make sure that's facing the right direction, and then take some of the self-threading screws here and then a Phillips screwdriver and mount that through the scabbard. You're going to actually have to push through so it pokes a hole, and then line up the holes that are already drilled into the block and thread those in. Alright, so now that we got all 6 bolts here, or the 6 screws into the block and holding the scabbard in, all tightened up, the next step is going to be taking this block here and mounting it. You've got 3 different holes, so depending on your saw size and shape, you can pick one of these 3 hole sets. And then also in the block, you've got 2 different sets of holes as well, depending on if you need the block higher for smaller saws or a little bit flatter. So I know that with ours, we're going to go into the holes closest to the scabbard with the block with the higher setting. So then you're going to take 2 of those self-drilling screws and same Phillips screwdriver, tighten both those. Alright, now that we got both of the blocks here for the chainsaw mounted up, next step is going to be putting in the mounting blocks to the handlebars. So in your chainsaw mount here, you've got 2 different hole locations that are slotted. So you can, depending on your bar height, use either the top or the bottom set, and then you can adjust width-wise as well. So for now, before putting it on the bike, we're just going to take one of these with the Allen head screw with one of the washers on it. And we're just going to thread this on. I'm going to put one here and one on the other side, and I'm going to leave it loose until I get it onto the bike. Okay, now we got the chainsaw mount assembled, we're going to have to take the steering stem here apart. So on this particular bike, we've got a 5mm Allen head on the top that we'll take all the way out. And then we've got 4mm Allens here holding the handlebar mount on. We're just going to loosen those so we can slide it off the top. Okay, now that we got the steering stem loosened up here, we can just slide it right off with handlebars attached, and then you can drape those forwards. And then you've got different stacks here. So some mountain bikes will have different sizes, but this is a 5mm stack. So the Enduro Engineering part that you're going to put on is going to replace one of those. So you can put it anywhere in here depending on the height that you're going to want for your bike. Take a stack out here, the shim stack, and then replace it with the Enduro Engineering part. So with these, like I said, there's 5mm, where you're going to basically just replace one of the stacks. And then you've got 2 different sizes here, depending on which bike you have. You might have to run a longer one, maybe some downhill bikes, or just this standard e-bike here. We're going to run the shorter one, which is also adjustable so that it'll fit your bike. So we'll slide that on, then take the steering stem, and then mount that back on. Okay, now that you got your steering stem back on, go ahead and take the steering stem cap, and then we're going to tighten this down. You're going to want to make sure you get this tight first. That way it pulls the steering stem all the way down, and make sure your handlebars are straight. Tighten that with the 5mm, and then we're going to tighten the pinch bolts here with the 4mm. Okay, now we'll tighten the steering stem pinch bolts, and these are 4mm Allen on this bike. Okay, now you're going to take the chainsaw mount, and right now I'm just going to hold it up to the bike to see where I have to mount, or to tighten this mount here. So now that I've got it figured out, I'm going to hold it in place. and then tighten these 2 Allen bolts down to the length that I need. With this back one, I'm going to use this small Allen wrench so I can actually get into there and tighten it. Okay, now that we've got the mount here on the steering stem, this is something you have the choice. You can either leave it on. Some people might mount a light to it, maybe a GoPro, or if you want, while you're not using your chainsaw mount, you can take it all back apart. That's up to you. You can leave it on or take it off. So now that we've got that one set, now we're going to line it up and get the handlebar mounts lined up on the handlebars where we want them. So that also we can line up with the hole for that mount. Looks like right about there. So now we can tighten these handlebar mounts down. And we also take the last button head bolt here with the Allen head. Make sure you got your washer on it, and you can mount that in. This is slotted too, so you got a pretty good slot depending on the height that you've got it set for your bike. And then we'll tighten that down as well. And then lastly, we've got these rubber straps that you can stick through the hole there of the handlebar mount, and then you can cinch it tight, and you can really put a lot of force into these straps. They're pretty strong. That way you can get them nice and tight so that they don't move around on the handlebar. Okay, so now we're all set up. We've got the mount mounted onto the bike. Now you can put your chainsaw in it. So you have the chainsaw strap here that's going to hold your chainsaw secure when you're riding. We've got it mounted here in the top hole. That's what's going to work best for our chainsaw. But you've got 2 more holes down here that you can use also. Depending on what saw you have, some might be smaller or bigger. You might want to play with different holes there to get the chainsaw as tight as you can with this strap. That way you don't have much movement when you're riding around. Okay, so lastly we'll show you how the chainsaw goes in. So just make sure you get the strap down out of the way. You don't have to take it all the way apart, just have it nice and loose. Slide the chainsaw in there, that way the jaws of the chainsaw fit right in that block. And then you can bring this strap up to the top of the chainsaw and cinch it down tight. So you can see there's not much movement, if any, once the chainsaw is strapped down when you're riding around trying to find an area that needs to be cleared. Okay, so that's how you install the Enduro Engineering Chainsaw mount for the mountain bikes. This will work on either regular standard mountain bikes, or on this case we have it on an electric mountain bike, the e-mountain bike. So if you want to get one of these for yourself to do some trail clearing, give us a call at 517-393-2421 or visit EnduroENG.com.